California. Played symphony, joined the Colored Men's YMCA. As I reminded my daughter when she sang, the Y is an open door since 1894. Shut out, never.
I can't hear anything if
Electrician,
talking, Jim.
musician, tax consultant, realtor, rising like Maya Angelou. Salvo for the race. Welcome to the book launch. Oh, we do have people on Zoom. You're so patient. Welcome, welcome, welcome. And Jane and Mary and Liz, welcome. And Cheryl and John. Welcome all of you. We're about a half hour late, and we've been watching this little thing go round and round, and it finally gave us you. So we're here because of this particular book, the Activist Poetry Anthology, and because of the guidelines of the library, we can't sell any here. But if you got our email, you can order the book, and all the poets got one free. And unless the ones that are reading today, you didn't get your book in the mail, I hope everybody got their book. That's good. I'm seeing a lot of nods. We're also here today to talk a little bit about voter education. And I wanted to kind of, after this poem by this woman who is the president of the Professors Union at Cal State San Marcos and a really good sister friend of ours, I wanted to read her poem today as a way to kind of kick this off. We want to remember that the ground that we're standing on right now is Kumeyaay. For 15,000 years, this ground was Kumeyaay. And I want to honor the mighty Kumeyaay Nation. And the Kumeyaay Nation reminds me to honor the woman's nation, the tribe that's the givers of life, and the elders nation, the tribe that reminds us that it's important to think about the seventh generation to come. That our politicians, our leaders need to remember the seventh generation to come. So they have clean air to breathe, and fresh water, and food to eat, and shelter. And so I honor the Kumeyaay Nation by remembering what the elders, those elders have taught me. So we also are going to have some news today about the Malcolm X Library. There's only 2 libraries in the nation that are named after Malcolm X. The children of Valencia Park named that library when it was built, and the city fathers went, "Well, I thought we were going to call it like Dr. King Library or something." Well, I don't think we should. No, Malcolm X. And the parents of those children and the children and the teens, they acted, and they did civil justice, social justice. And so that's the name. The children chose that name. That's the name. It's in Valencia Park here in San Diego. If you're ever here and you go into the front door of Malcolm X Library, there's a statue of him. And he's kind of looking like this. And every time I come in that library, I rub him on the shoulder, so I'll have good luck. And I'll remember to respect all relations, to respect all cultures, and that there's no one is a second-class citizen because of 2 reasons: the Constitution of this country and the Bill of Rights. And that's the law of the land. And so those are some things we like to remember today. And so I think it would be a really neat thing for us to start with a poet that's from Seattle. Cheryl, are you ready to read to us? Let me tell you a little bit about Cheryl Lateef. Besides, she was the lady that really helped us back in the 90s. She was the host of a poetic brew. Did I say that name right?
Yes, you did.
And when we were all scared to death to walk to the microphone, she made us feel like family. And let me read a little bit about, this is in the back of our book that we just got published as a bibliography. Cheryl Lateef was drawn to the Pacific Northwest in 2001 by a multilingual sky. Her poems have been in public arts exhibits and published in journals and anthologies, including New Millennium Writings, the Comstock Review, Spillway, and How Luminous the Wildflowers. A copywriter by trade, she relishes fooling with words. And I assure you that we have a master poet, and she is no one's fool. This is Cheryl Lateef.
Thank you, Jim. That was very nice. I'm going to read two poems. This one is a very old poem. I wrote it in 1999. And what I've realized is that politically based poems,
Can you hear her?
can you hear me?
I'll never move closer. Why don't you move a little closer? Into the microphone?
Yeah, you can put the mic near the. Just give me the mic.
This is why Joe.
That's not a bad
fixed
idea.
most of the things in my house.
Go ahead and talk.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Go ahead.
Can you hear me?
I'm trying to figure out where the audio is coming from.
Can you hear me?
Count to 10, Cheryl.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8,
It's okay.
9, 10.
There you go. That's it. Right
That a little
there.
bit better?
Yeah.
A little bit better. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Cheryl.
Okay. Well, I was saying that what I found is that any poem that I write that's politically based, doesn't matter when I wrote it, it still says the same thing years later, which is kind of sad, but true. So this is a poem I wrote based on the president's speech in 1999. It's called From Colorado to Kosovo. I am seeking the winds of change. Words, not weapons, he implores, as bombs fall on Belgrade. The irony is sharp, like a knife to the gut. Innocent souls cut down become collateral in the name of peacekeeping. Words, not weapons, is a call of this one nation under God, making millions from munitions, making movies of mass murder, making motherless children of us all. Words, not weapons, comes a cry when children cut down other children in school. They've learned well the lessons of war, how to destroy from a distance, how to demand attention through destruction, how to decimate hope with pipe bombs and bullets, homemade horror on the 5 o'clock news. Words, not weapons, a neatly packaged soundbite, well-crafted words from a spin doctor, unable to heal these wounds. These wounds bleed to the bone. Words, not weapons, echoes in the aftermath. I hear Martin in the distance, search for heroes in debris, call your name, God, in despair. The air is thick with the stench of death, the future bleak, and all I hear is a haunting echo of these words, wishing they were more than a clever tagline. Thank you. And this second poem was written for a friend. Some of you knew him, I'm sure, Jimmy Collins. It's called Ancestral Soil. You wander distant lands, gather treasure of lore, like sacred stones smoothed by years of telling. These words, colors, sounds, this ancestral soil soothes. Your synapses, like fingers, caress every sense. You taste home in sun-drenched days, smell home in morning dew, feel home in the weave of cloth at open market, hear home in feral cries carried by night, see home across the savannah. Your untamed soul stretches like a cheetah, muscles quiver, ready for the run. Your life was only for this, all the days of your life for this return to what you did not know, but knew all the same, Mother Africa. Her heart beats in distant rhythms, language of drums, unwritten language, unspoken words, carried by wind, safe from interception, carried by wind calling you home, where the cast of your skin makes you brother or son, never other. Calling you home where carrion crows know your name. You roam under African skies, wider somehow than those you have known, deeper somehow than what you have grown to expect. Home, you are home now, in the bosom of Mother Africa. Thank you.
Thank you, Cheryl. We want to remind everybody that we are recording because this genius that is my friend and my brother will fix it up so we can put it on YouTube, and there will be a larger audience than we have today. Because the message that Joe Malash, my co-editor, and I, by the way, this book would not have been launched at all without you, man. Thank you very much for all your guidance and your help. And he's the reason why we have an audio today too, so that's kind of great. This book is collected from 25 contributors with notes on and examples from mentors and writers who influenced them. These 77 poems, translations, and essays speak to the role and power of poetry and the arts to create awareness, foster empathy, and produce change. Joe and I worked on a book last year that we got published. It was Steve Cowick's Anthology, the best poems of his. And I came to him a few weeks after that book was launched, and I said, "Let's do another one. We have all these friends. They're our brothers and sisters, and let's see if we can counter hate and ignorance." That's what this book is about. It's about countering hate and ignorance. That the people who have taken the flag from us and claimed it as their own, it's not theirs. It's ours. And so we wanted to take that flag back in this book too. Remember the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. And another gentleman who lives right behind me, his name is Michael Turner Ortega. And here's what it says in the biography here. It says, Michael Turner Ortega, AKA Icarus Blaze, is from the Mexica Mayan Raramuri Footrunners clan. But I saw him yesterday walking down the alley. And I said, "Where are you going?" He said, "Well, I'm getting some blueberries for my wife because it's kind of hot and she likes blueberries." So all you guys out there who rather watch sports than get blueberries for your wife, you need to talk to this man because he's a hell of a poet too. This is Michael Turner Ortega.
I can relate to Malcolm X. When I was in the Navy, the pilots used to buff up my hair after they would come out of the ready room for their day's adventures because I made a mean pot of coffee. Okay, I'm going to read all four because we're a small group of the poems in here, and I'll start with Occupies a Whirling Rock. I stand to occupy the whole wide world. Around me, as far as I can reach, provoking creativity fearlessly, in all directions, all at once, and love every minute of it, in a vibratory sense. To live an enchanted life full of magic, the creative force sustains me and everyone around me. We share our stories and touch as many people as we can. edited. Riding on this whirling rock made from the dust of stars. Let that little light shine on, make a difference. Occupy a worldwide spring in whatever season we find ourselves to be awakened in, becoming luminous pulsars, searching for connections to explore a cosmology, that of where our origins come from in a mystical way that we've created, recreating ourselves, or how energy flows. My second poem in the book, "An H1 Explodes." I don't know if it was we're being shut down or if mechanical failure from the avionics department on the jet engine just right above us. But anyway, the H1 exploded. Wounded bird going down, fire in the sky, lights flash within throughout immortality, golden age, floating in slow motion, a mission of transfiguration, filling infinite excitement, trance-like, creation's beauty, end of time, reflections pull me down, buying time. Phosphorescent hues of lingering shadows dance in the light sheen of lush forest in green time. Sunlight shines through the bright canopy, nature avenged by the sound of clicking stones, a memory of death's fearless last breath. Having seen another world, living like a ghost without question, made myself into a spirit on the other side, takes it all in, wind rolls over me, becoming feral gracefully. This great evil mocks me, calls out, coward. Wild laughter collapses. Incoming restlessness smells the morning monsoon squalor of decomposition. A run on the wild side. My first sweet altar run in an earthly paradise. Oh, just 2 poems.
Wonderful, Michael.
Thank you, Michael. Mary Williams is a writer, editor, and coordinator of Contemplative Outreach of North San Diego. Her work has appeared in River Styx, Cedar Hill Review, City Works, Sunshine Warrior, 2, and the Future Faces of Spirit series on YouTube. She is working on a memoir, All the Lurking Mothers of God, and occasionally shares her ponderings online in her blog, Logia Divina. This is Mary Williams. Welcome.
Thank you, Jim. Can people hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Um, I just wanted to say a couple of things about my presence in the anthology. I feel like everyone has such powerful work, and it has to do with engagement in the now and activism. And I was thinking that whatever form of activism that we engage in, it's important to remember to fill the well as best we can, to find food that feeds the spirit and nourishes the heart, whether it's through rest, through creativity, through prayer, or maybe just through noticing small little pockets of beauty throughout the day, so that we don't become burned out or cynical as we weather the storms we find ourselves in these days. And we are in some rough weather. So anyway, that's kind of the spirit of the poems that I'm going to share now. This is The Purr If any of you have cats, this may appeal to you. The purr of the cat is the universal hum, the thrum of all stars, mysterious reverberations from a wild and fathomless peace. Do not take this murmured grace for granted. Daily cruelty and indifference abound. Old wounds burned into your bones have smothered your delight. The purr beckons you to unclench, to soak deep in this warm, quivering creatureliness. Linger there. Let it softly cradle the tender, trembling mammal of your heart. If manna has a rhythm, it is the purr. And this is elemental noticings. It's a kind of things that I've kind of culled from journal entries over the years, just noticings around me during the day and during different seasons. All right. Before the storm, the charcoaled bellies of the clouds hang low. May midnight thunder rumble. After the storm, all the crows and little brown birds pecking the rain-drenched ground. There is food to be found. Spring, mid-morning. The breeze is blowing through the trees, now lush with leaf and blossom. With the daylight streaming through the branches, dappled patterns play across the ground. A slow shimmering of shadow and sun. It is not a rare effect, but I have loved this dance of dark and light, this gift of leaf and wind since girlhood. I linger in this moment. Like the tiny insects that hover a few feet above the ground, I remain there, floating, quivering, savoring the brief sweetness of the season. In the summer, first unmasked walk after a year of pandemic. It is twilight, the hour of rose-hued horizon and moon-flowering sky. I am lucky to live in a place that is often quiet at dusk, with paths largely deserted. I relish the evening chill on my lips. My unshackled nose takes in the spice of blooms that open when the day dims down. And how I have missed these walks. How I have longed for this moment as the light pauses before revealing its primal aura. O liminal hour of celestial presence, when planets appear and owls' wings unfurl. Somehow, hope retrieves me at this hour. Somehow, possibility returns. Of course, I am familiar with the sleight of hand that low light plays, softening the edges, warming the coolness, inviting invisible crickets. It does not matter. The unbraided edges of dreams can now trickle in through my reopened heart and loosen the rigidities of the day. Soon, the sleep breathing of mammals sweetens the air. Soon, the cocoon of night wraps us in its luminous expanse and lifts us out of the callousness of the day. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mary. That's really beautiful. So we know that when Alfred has this ready for the internet, there's gonna be people who are really busy and then all of a sudden, hey, we're gonna vote in November. And there's some people that we shouldn't be voting for, some people we should be voting for. So we want to tell you about sdvote.com, about the 3 changes that are going on. And the first change is that they're gonna send out your ballot on October 8th. And the next change is that there's ballot boxes that you can go to and drop your ballot in and know it's going to be counted. And especially if you sign and date the envelope you mailed your ballot in. Sign and date that, okay? And then there's vote centers. They used to say, well, you have to go down to the City Heights Recreation Center and that's where you vote. These voting centers, all you have to do is go in and vote anywhere you want to if you're not gonna do your mail-in, okay? So those are the 3 basic things. And we want everybody to really, even though you're really busy, we're right on a cutting edge right now with climate change, with people who wanna not pay attention to the Constitution and the Bill of Rights, people that wanna bring back slavery. Because that's what, when you're talking about keeping people from voting because of the color of their skin or where they live, that's a form of slavery. And so we want to remember sdvote.com, and you can even sign up for the track when you go to the ballot drop box, and you signed up for having your ballot tracked, and they will follow it and make sure it gets right to where the people are going to count the votes. So let's all remember that, and let's all be poet citizens. Our next poet just got back from a trip, and it says here in the bio that Chris Manoy came out of the Kansas prairie to grow up in the California sun. Poetry is his passion, voicing it is art. He neglected to say he was elected the beat poet of San Diego, and then he neglected to say he was the beat poet of the United States. And then he neglected to say he's the beat poet, the international beat poet. And so we're here to remind him that he's one of the reasons that we're looking forward to hearing what he has written and memorizes and makes us remember that this art that we all follow is good for our heart and our soul. This is Chris Manoy.
Hello, everybody out in Zoom land. I just got back from Connecticut, and we talked a lot about tolerance and compassion and acceptance there from poets all over the world. The first one, do Clone 2000 first. I am he who you made, creation of sapien, a thing to be harvested, a thing to be sold, a slave, product of genetic engineering, a slave for your procreation and your life extension. My home is a 5x7 bio-life system substance chamber, the exact one in which I was conceived. They say my waking was a mistake, their mistake. They say they are sorry. They say I am to be terminated. Terminated as unviable material. They say I have been corrupted. The process of my existence are copyrighted. I am owned by Cybergen. Their lawyers agree that I am property. Property like an iPhone. Property like a chair, like a spoon. This is the year 2022. You are hereby instructed that I am clone number 204 of Master Body 335, fully functional. Standard intellect level is achieved through symbolic representation and sentience through miscalculation of amino acids. I am being kept in passive restraint for donor organs. I overheard the biotechs talking in low whispers as they were excavating clone number 203 for master body implantation, full retrofit, all usable material removed, all usable material removed. I lay in darkness of my fate for 18 years, prepared for a world that I had seen only through the pre-programmed memories of Master Body 335. I am being kept alive for donor organs. I stand before you now to plead for my life. I am clone number 204, and I am alive. Bring you back down to Tierra Firma. It's called my bench. Hey, you, get off my bench. That's my bench. It's got my name right there. See, young feller like you nowadays don't know a place to sleep at night. Right there, says Chris Benoit, right there. Man has to sleep where a man's name is, don't he? He says, as he unrolls the blanket on the bench. Man remembers with her bed with silken sheets and a warm woman lying cradled beside him, he says, as he lays upon the bench. Went to sleep and woke with wine, now I lay my head here all the time, he says. He makes a pillow with the excess blanket, a bench for a bed, and dreams too light me to sleep, he says, as he closes his eyes.
Yeah. Thank you, Chris. Jane Milligan is a San Diego native, is a retired high school art teacher with an MA in pictorial arts and an MFA in creative writing. Her poems have appeared in the Santa Clara Review, Writers Monthly, and We Speak, a journal of Black writers in San Diego. Please welcome a poet who is not unfamiliar with the page and making great things happen on that page. This is Jane Milligan.
Thank you. I want to thank you, Jim and Joe, for dreaming up this project, for all the hard work you've put into bringing it to fruition, and also to all you poets, because it's like medicine for me right now, because I feel like there are so many crazy people in the world right now. We're at an inflection point. We don't know what's going to happen after the midterms. I'm depressed, but it's nice to be around like-minded people, people with some sanity. So thank you all. The first poem I want to share, as I said, I'm depressed about all the things that are going on, but I try to find hope where I can find it. And on this particular day, I was very, very gloomy and depressed about things. And I was leaving the post office. And then this little gift came along, an occurrence, which is in the poem. And I ran home and I wrote it. It's called Hope. Two gangly white girls spill down the street like frolicking puppies. Joyful carelessness of youth on full display. Sisters, probably, both with long flaxen hair and sloppy ponytails. Their summer outfits snub the gray winter day with billowy tie-dyed tops and shorts, breezy pastels and sandals, and blue surgical masks. With elbows akimbo, one kicks her lanky leg high in the air at a phantom soccer ball or aimless butterfly. Or maybe a random burst of energy creates her pseudo dance move. Seeing such abandon, bordering on comical, brings me close to tears. A reminder there's life to be lived despite COVID. An antidote from malignant TV images crammed in my head. A smug, maskless figure in Senate chambers, wasted manhood conducting murderous maneuvers in suit supremacist training camps, flagpole spears thrust at besieged Capitol Police. Hoping against hope, it won't always be like this. Hope rekindled by the sight of these carefree sisters out savoring the day and sweetly oblivious that in this small frozen moment, their light decimates darkness and might even save a life. The next one came when I was just sitting by the window looking out at the trees, and it's called Regarding Trees. The backyard foliage I see between slats of my vertical blinds looks self-satisfied. Not smug like us, just content with itself and its lot. It's firmly rooted, not restless. Unprideful, it wears its gleaming green as intended, one of many unremarkable jewels on this planet, in this cosmos, in this multiverse. Gently responsive to breezes, accommodating to butterflies and birds, it belongs and allows all else to belong. We are the anomaly that will turn all this on its head. We believe we are superior because we are self-aware and can move about at will. But we ignore the wisdom of trees, crave utility, not beauty, and gorge ourselves until there's nothing left to consume. I don't know why this is so. Why such a voracious species was allowed to propagate and ruin all in its path. Perhaps the trees know why, as they bide their time. Meanwhile, I watch them sway and preserve snapshots in my mind, hoping I can emulate their fortitude and grace later when the fires come. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeannie. That was great. Thank you very much. The Friends of Malcolm X Library would like you to know that they're doing a fundraiser for the library. It's a week from this Saturday on September 17th at Joyous Lake. And if you go to the Friends of San Diego, Friends of Malcolm X Library Facebook page, there'll be more information there for you. We're going to have a poetry contest for the youth. There's going to be raffles. We're going to give away books in those raffles and some other good stuff. And there's going to be snow cones, food vendors, and it's just going to be really a lot of fun. We'll have a doctor and a nurse there if anybody gets in trouble with the heat, but the snow cones and the free water should take care of that. And so fasten your seatbelts. When my daughter, who's 33 now, was in elementary school, she was taking piano lessons. And I took her with me because we were doing an open mic over in North Park. And she was pecking at a piano when our next poet walked in. and said, "Do you mind if I play a little something?" And so Miriam got inside, and all of a sudden it was the Duke, the Count, it was Yo-Yo Ma, even on the piano. And she's just an amazing musician. You'll hear the music in her poetry. This is Dolores Fisher.
Thank you, Brother Jim. Hello, everybody. It's a pleasure indeed to be here. I'm going to read, and I debated, but years ago, when everyone was writing wonderful poetry that talked about politics, I was writing personal politics. I was doing that thing that Nikki Giovanni does, who is one of my inspirations. And so this poem is called Full Disclaimer, Love at Considerable Personal Risk. Seeking thrills, I am a pufferfish. Does my colorful array excite you, my brother? Craving intimacy, I am a pufferfish. Does my cuteness ignite desire? Tingling ecstasy, I am a pufferfish. Does my liquid volcano disrupt your psyche? I am a pufferfish. Sweet, poisonous lust. No love lives here. And so I'd like to do political poem entitled Freedom Light for Nelson Mandela. His little love light he surely let shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Let it shine, raising freedom's sacrifice banner, taking a blood-soaked mantle from shoulders of elders who gaze into his future as they place their spirit on the altar of justice, offering their existence to create a nation. Let it shine. Mandela looks up, grasps the heavy blood-stained banner before it touches ground, raising it high. Splinters piercing his hand, shining his light against oppression's smothering cloak. He raises his other hand clenched into a fist, shouts, "Amandla!" Let it shine. Mandela intones mournful, cautionary voice over prejudice's dry bones. Praise the battle cry, elder deaths honored. Let it shine. Mandela died to self that sun glow morn so that others might live. Peaceful warrior, forced into captive isolation. Word of his mouth, meditations of his heart, aligning to God's will, forgiving and loving. Beyond retaliation or political principle, let it shine. Unchained, called again to lead beyond imprisoning walls of intolerance. His message? Love, unity manifested in actuality, extends to all. Forgiveness forged on hearts of strength unfathomable, in a nation torn by deathly hate. Mandela visioned survival. Baptized in deep healing, celestial fountains, let it shine. Mandela's life in service to humanity, a model of power's gentle strength, no obsequious obeyance, but righteous defiance. He lifts his eyes to the hills from which comes his help, and listens to children's voices from generations unborn, living justice unity, peace, love, freedom. Amen. Wow!
So you don't need any lemonade now, do you, huh? She got us all going. Tell her I'm gonna let Julio go next in the video, okay? So that was a good example of how San Diego State is in good shape with their professors, because she's also a professor over there. But our next poet is an example of how Baylor is in good shape because of this young man. And Julio Cesar Aguilar is a professor at Baylor University, author of Rescoldos, 1995, Referencia, 1996, El Deserto del Mundo, 1998, Orilla de la Madrugada, 1999, and a whole bunch of other books. And siento mucho por mi español, hermano. And he showed up one day at another event that we were doing, and I'm going, whoa, listen to this man. And he's been showing up ever since. And I just invite him, and he keeps coming, and we're all blessed for the art that this man has in his heart. This is Julio Cesar Aguilar.
Thank you very much, Jim. And I apologize for being late, but I'm here. I'm going to read 2 poems. And by the way, your pronunciation was great. I understood everything. Okay, I'm going to read 1 poem in Spanish and in English. Desafío. Especialista en la muerte fui desde que me hirió la vida. ¿Y ahora qué? Que poco tengo. Vacías las manos son, siendo que algo poseen. Fragancia nevada de frutos y frescura de lirios amargos. Del corazón mejor es no hablar. Fuente o lámpara rota de vano cristal, río disecado, hálito que se ahoga en su misma sangre. Alguien me explique la fórmula para parecer feliz en el universo este tan lejano y ajeno, mientras aguardo solo y solamente la consumación de todo, como el que nada sabe y a nadie teme, con la cierta costumbre enhiesta de mirar a los atardeceres hundirse en su fango de fuego, febrilmente desvanecido. Challenge. I was a specialist in death since life wounded me. And now what? I have little. My hands are empty, though they possess something. Scent fallen from fruits and freshness of bitter irises. It's better not to speak of the heart, a found or broken lamp of crystal vanity, dry river bed, breath suffocating on its own blood. Someone explained to me the formula for seeming happy, facing this universe so distant and strange, while I await only and alone the consummation of all, like one who knows nothing and fears no one, with a certain lofty habit of watching sunsets sink into their fiery math, feverishly vanished. Thank you.
Dios te bendiga, Julio. Thank you for coming. Thank you very much. So my poetry partner and I, we've done 2 books together now. And he's been nominated for the Pushcart Prize. I mean, he's just won a lot of awards, and his writing is really good. But I know the man, and I know his wife through his many stories. He stayed with her for 20 years as she fought breast cancer. Stayed with her to the end. And we're together over any amount of time. He will tell me stories about Patsy. And when you hear his poems, there'll be something that will transform in you. You might not be able to explain it, but you know you're different inside. Maybe you're connected a little bit better to yourself as a human being, as a man or a woman. This is Joe Malash.
So, Jim and I did this book, and there are many reasons I got involved, but primarily it was because Patsy wasn't around, because I would have said to her, Patsy, I'm gonna do another book with Jim, and she would have said, as usual, you can do anything you want, but if you do anything with that sailor, I'm gonna divorce you. But she wasn't there to encourage me. In San Diego, one of the older poets, Trish Duger, she's 90, she's in hospice, and we did an event for her, and I just wanted to dedicate this reading to her. And then I got a lot of things to say, I'm gonna try and keep it short. I ran in on Zoom. I'm just so happy Zoom's around, although we have a thing, like Murphy's Law, only we call it Jim Moreno's Law, because what it means is we come the day before an event, takes us 5 minutes to set up, everything works up, and then we come here and everything falls apart, and it's 45 minutes to an hour to get it to work. And that happens every time. So, but anyway.
Joe, it's like a rain delay. You just have, a rain delay.
A rain delay, yeah. Thanks, John. I met a poet online that I know. We graduated from the MFA, Debbie Doolittle. And so we've been kind of in contact, and she lives in North Carolina, and her poetry community exists, is a cat, 2 grandchildren, and her husband. And I was, telling her what we have here in San Diego, which is really good. And I told her that the greatest thing about this poetry community is that when you walk into a reading, you're already given unconditional respect, and you don't get that anywhere else. And then just before I read, I got one other point about getting out to vote. About 2 months ago, Dolores mentioned Mandela and showed me her poem that she was submitting here. It's a really nice poem about Mandela. I'm glad you read it. But ever since then, a week doesn't go by with someone who I know, but we've never talked about, politics in that way, have brought up Mandela. And I was in Arizona, and a good friend of mine gave me his autobiography, which I'm reading. So as I'm reading it, I see there's the history of South Africa and the United States as far as race goes is almost parallel, and it seems to overlap. And he was telling me how the South African government, which was white at the time, moved all the Black Africans into these neighborhoods. So the Black Africans, they made the neighborhoods look good, the schools prospered, and when they got to an extent, then the white government would move them out and take over everything, but they burned the schools. So what he learned from that was there were 2 things a man needed to be free. One, he needed to vote, because without the vote, you couldn't control your destiny, or you couldn't affect your destiny. and you needed education, because without education, you couldn't vote in a thoughtful way. And I just say that because I just want to encourage people to vote, because that's how important it is. And I'm going to read just one piece. It's called The Chewing Gum Rosary. It's based on my mother-in-law. She was a migrant worker who came to the US when she was 7 years old. And then when she was 12, her and her mother were caught and sent back. And she walked again from the middle of Mexico, the Sierra Madres, around Zacatecas. And it wasn't easy for her to get here. And then when she was 18, she was caught again. And while she was waiting for deportation, her boyfriend, who happened to be her new husband, married her to keep her in the country. So I kind of took her story as it was told to me by her aunt, Tia Felipe, when I was visiting the town of Lenusco. And when the coyotes take migrant workers into our country, they come across the desert. The migrant workers generally only can afford one bottle of water, about 12 ounces, and they've got to be 3 days crossing the desert. So what they do is they go without water one day, the second day they drink 12 ounces. And the third day, they generally suffer from heat exhaustion or heat stroke if they don't make it. And then when you got heat exhaustion, you just start to wander aimlessly because you don't know what you're doing. And the coyotes call them chickens. And in this story, chickens play a part. It's called The Chewing Gum Rosary. After Sunday Mass, before her journey, Alma opened the door of the church and hopped down its steps. At the age of 8, she was learning to integrate the ancient rites of Mexico with the Catholic rituals. She practiced them when she left her pueblo and throughout her new life. In the road beside the church cemetery, she found a dead chicken. Looking into its opened eyes, she remembered her familia saying that she and her mother would walk from Jalpa to Selma, although they both knew they would ride whenever possible. She wanted to close the bird's eyes and to bury it without a coffin, as she'd heard they buried the migrants. Needing a shovel, she retrieved one from home and returned to find the chicken missing. There was only one pool of blood on the road marking the spot. After lunch, she told her Aunt Juanita about the bird and was directed to pick rush reeds from the riverbank. Bringing back a handful of stems, her aunt taught her to make them into small crosses. As she worked, Alma asked, "Where are all the fathers? Who will protect us?" Her aunt said, "Some died along the road to Ala Norte, others worked in California." After watching Alma fold several crosses, her aunt chose the best one. Opening her sewing basket, she picked an old black beaded hatpin from her collection. On the way to the site, they stopped at church, filled a jar with holy water, continued to the tar-colored smear. Standing over the spot, Aunt Juanita blew north, east, south, and west. Dipping the base of the cross into holy water, she dribbled it onto the smudge. After blessing the area, she fixed the cross with her hatpin to the nearest tree. Then she removed a rosary from her skirt's pocket. Its beads were ball chiclet wrappers, threaded on a string that the butcher used to rock his meat in. As Tio Anita swirled the beads over the stain in a prayer to the goddess of the dead, Santa Muerta, she hoped to assure the saint's petition to Alma's guardian angel for protection and relieve Alma's fears about the rapes and deaths of women and children traveling north. Her aunt warned Alma not to trust the Mexicans or the Norteños, the coyotes, the police, and especially not to trust La Migra. Her aunt said the men would abuse or enslave Alma. During her journey, Alma's safety depended on holding her mother's hand in the gun, wrap her rosary. Along with her guardian angel, the two formed a trinity of grace, safeguarding her like the ancient pyramids guarded their ancestors. This belief enabled the mother and child to walk in such harmony with the landscape that they became invisible to the machete-sharp looks of the men. Alma believed it was a miracle that made them appear to the men as Hen and Chip, walking along the roadway and looking for bubbles and bugs. How else, Alma said, could you explain the chicken feathers found in her mother's shopping bag when she unpacked it in Selma? Thank you.
Thanks, Joe. Can we give some love for a gentleman that's to my right here, Alfred Williams, who's our Zoom master, who makes my life a heck of a lot easier. And thank you for coming and taking care of us today. He built 2 websites, and how do I tell them to get a hold of you?
ALWKID@yahoo.com. You can reach me. My email address is ALWKID@yahoo.com. And yeah, if you need help, any kind of technical help with web design, graphics, anything like that, that's my forte. This is just a side gig. Plus I get to listen to a lot of really cool poetry. Thank you.
That's Alfred Williams. Give him some more love, please. John Fox, can you hold your hand up for everybody, please? I want to give a shout out to John Fox, who has made sure that I'm going to do a 6-week program next year, probably in February, for California veterans. And John works with a lot of veterans. He goes all over the country doing his poetry workshops. I've been attending his workshops since the 1990s. And God bless you, John. Thanks for coming today.
Thank you, Jim. Such a blessing to be here, and could be veterans all over.
Say again? Say again?
Thank you, Jim, very much. It's a blessing to be here, and it could be vets from all over, not only California, but far and wide.
That's how big his heart is. All right. Can we give John Fox some love, please?
You can check out the Institute.
I got one little more item, and then we're going to wrap it up for today. We thank everybody for coming, and we've been pounded for months now. Yes, on 27. Yes, on 26. 50 tribes are against 27. I haven't had time to do the research on 26, but what happens if that's passed, if we don't say no, is even kids have a credit card convict. And what's going to create is a whole bunch of problems for the reservations and a whole bunch of problems for people who are compulsive gamblers or people who are not of age. And so myself, I'm leaning towards no vote on both of those. I've got a list of 50 tribes that are saying, no way, no. This is outside gambling influences. They're going to have 90% of the profits. How are they going to end homelessness with 10% of whatever is happening? So I just needed to say that for our reservations. We have 18 reservations in San Diego County. And please go out and see the shows there. Please vote no on, like I'm going to vote no on 27 and 26. This is called a knock at the door. This will be our last point for the day. For the players, students, and families at Orange Glen High School, it starts with an epigram by L. Lamar Wilson, which was in the Poetry Journal, August 2021. So much green between our waists and toes. We can't see the clay caked in the spurs, cutting our heels for the pines that shade us. We tramp them cones, they shed that seed, the soil that keeps us alive. Our loins spilling, more mouths begging to be filled every day. Dim peckerwoods would turn every limb into a grave if our maker let them. There was a knock at the door. There was a knock at the door. A teen from Orange Glen High School going door to door in City Heights. I immediately apologized for what happened last week when his team played Coronado High School in the basketball championships. I gave him 20 green frog skins and asked him about his life. He shook my hand several times and I wished him good grades in school. The media said Coronado High was racist. The media said players and family threw tortillas and taunts at the players after the game. But Enrique Morones of Gente Unida on the radio in LA said Coronado threw racist epithets at the teams. Enrique said the Latino kids were forced to change to street clothes under the bleachers, forced to leave by the back door. What's up with the mass media only saying the part of the story that tortillas were thrown? There was a knock at my door. There was a knock at my door to find my father. I answered the knock and found him. He was corn farming in Slippery Rock. It was 1981. I visited him twice, but his racism pushed me away, like the time we had dinner with his farmer friends, fried chicken and dumplings, everyone so sweet. But when the wives brought pie and ice cream, inwards were biting, bitter and soured the taste of the supper. They made sure I knew they thought white was the bomb. They made sure I knew black was not. There's a pounding at the door of truth, a pounding at truth's door to report all the events of June 19th, 2021. Food thrown at Latino kids who are winners. Food that could feed children in cages. Clay caked in the spurs, Strange Fruit Island. Peckerwoods turned a victory to a grave. And the mass media only reported a small piece of tears that rain from the poison of hate. Thank you for coming. God bless you. Thank you, everybody in the room. Hey, watch out for the winds. There'll be big winds coming up. And we will see you on the second Sunday of October at the Space Bar. That's going to be on Zoom. We're going to do another poetry launch. And we'll see you, just a second, John. And we'll see you in Tijuana, October 29th. Alfred will be with us. And we're going to do a Zoom from Tijuana because we want to honor all the Spanish-speaking poets by being in Tijuana and being in Mexico. And so, John, did you have your hand up?
Yeah, I did. I just want you to repeat, Jim, how do people get the book? How do people get the book?
You can go to jimpoet.com and Joe's going to give you his email address right now, or his website right now.
You can go to Joe Melange, poet at large, I think, .com.
Joseph D. Melange Poet.
Joseph D. Melange Poet. See, Jim knows more about my webpage than I do. And you can pick up the book and that you just, click on a little button and it'll take you right to where you need to go.
It's also on Amazon. There's a link on Amazon. If you just, the title of the book is An Activist Poetry Anthology, Selected Poems for Good Trouble. And we thank Mr. Lewis for his legacy to give us that part of that. Can we give some more love for all the poets, please? Thank you all for coming. And I hope you got your money's worth. And we'll see you down the trail. Take care.
Be safe, everybody.
And if you can, if y'all could help us get the chairs back in here. Okay.
I can do it. I'll do it.